Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. Hello, Mavericks. Great to have you here, and new viewers from all over the world. Welcome to our temporary Maverick News headquarters in an undisclosed bunker, secret location, which only privileged people get to know. Tonight, other kind of information that you'll be privileged to come by, because I think we're going to hear some stories tonight from a couple of local residents out in Edgewood, BC, who were victims of the big ostrich protest out there. They resulted in the cull of about 314 ostriches that were culled because of the bird flu. So, yeah, we're going to bring their story and other information forward tonight in part 3 of our ongoing series, which reviews what really happened out at that crazy ostrich farm and sheds, I think, light on the entire thing that gets us closer to the truth, gets us way beyond the spin and the narrative and the propaganda and the outright lies that I think the vast majority of the public has really bought into. So tonight, not just the other side of the story, but the other side of another side to the story, because there is more than one side. Because, as we often say here on Maverick News, more than one thing can be true at the same time. In fact, multiple things can be true at the same time. But whatever we do tonight, I hope that it does get us all closer to the truth. When we come back, Angie Clowry, guest journalist, and 2 local Edgewood, BC residents will join us.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we are ready to rock and roll. Let's bring Angie Clowry in. Oh, you're a little fuzzy there, Angie. Maybe, I don't know, put your hand up to the camera and have it refocus, maybe. I don't know. Well, I'm sure it could be me. It could be my failing, aging eyes. But I don't think so. You're kind of blurred out. It'll correct here in a moment, I'm sure. In any event, we have your voice and you're live with us. And I have to thank you, because of the extensive work you have been doing over months now, looking into this ostrich farm story, bringing a lot of new information to light, and for sharing it with me and now our viewers as well. So it's great to have you here as a guest journalist. As you know, we've done some work on it here at Maverick News as well, and you've uncovered additional information. And I have to tell you that over the last 2 nights, it has, the interviews we have done have revealed new dots that need to be connected. It has given me new information and insight into all of this. As a result, I have been doing some additional digging, and those two interviews combined with what we're going to get tonight, I think is going to lead us to a place where tomorrow I'm going to be able to, with your help, reveal information that and kind of wrap it all up so that people can really understand what was driving this whole thing out of that crazy ostrich farm in Edgewood, BC. Are you still there? Yeah, there you are. Okay, I'm going to
I
throw it to
am.
you for a comment.
There's so much to comment on, and I think we should just acknowledge the fact last night was a shit show and did not take us where I didn't know where we were going to go.
You know what? Hang on. It wasn't a shit show. You know why? Because I've learned something about this new form media, social media, these live streams. Nothing in journalism school, nothing in my prior mainstream media career as a journalist at CTV and in radio, print, nothing prepared me for what I have been going through here. And that's because it's a new medium, it's interactive, it's immediate, and it's also something that I've been experiencing in the fog of war, because we are in an information war right now. And so we're really in totally new territory. But the reason it wasn't a shit show is because even though our guest, he did frustrate me because it was very clear he was not forthcoming. He came here for an interview and then didn't really engage in an interview. He was here for an interview that didn't happen. It bothered me a lot overnight. And it became very clear to me that the interview wasn't about him. He was trying to make it about me, and he was trying to make it about our viewers, because he wanted access to the viewers, and he wanted to kind of direct things in a way that brought it here. He was essentially using the platform instead of allowing us to get closer to the truth by having him share his story. He really didn't share his story. But as a result of his interview, it did still provide me with information that I can connect to what we've had previous. And as a result of that, combined with what we have tonight, I'm going to be able to take this story and move it forward in a productive and constructive way for the public and for our Maverick viewers. So you're going to want to come back tomorrow night, because we're going to be connecting some new dots and give you new perspective. So it wasn't a shit show. It's, even when things go bad, there's always good that can come of it. And that's the silver lining in last night's weird interview.
And if I can just add a little bit of salt to this wound for myself, I can say that this individual has now done a 180, and this individual believes that they have been duped. And I think we can talk a bit more about that tomorrow as well.
We can talk about it more tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah. So duped. I mean, there's a word. We'll dig into that, but not so much right now, because we have, two important guests to come on right now, and they're going to share their story, a story that really has not been given adequate voice. That's what we're all about here. We talk to everybody, all sides of a story, not just the other side. We try to cover all the sides of a story, because it can be 3, 5, who knows how many sides to a story. So we try to give it as, full perspective. And that's why our guests are here tonight, Mike and Kelly Soroka. Thanks for joining us on the program. Local residents from Edgewood, BC. Very close. Well, just tell us, how close do you live to that crazy ostrich?
Well, our farm basically comes. There's a small property in between our ranch and the ostrich farm. As a matter of fact, Dave's grandfather at one time owned our ranch.
When you say
And,
Dave, we need to make sure
Dave
that
Belinsky.
we may have new viewers here, maybe are completely unfamiliar with any of this story. So we should always try to tee up our information in a way that helps them understand and follow along with us, right? So who is Dave?
Dave Belinsky. I went to school with Dave's younger brother. I've known Dave Belinsky since we first came to the Valley in the early 70s.
And he's one of the owners of the ostrich operation. Yeah.
Yeah. His grandfather, who actually gave him the ostrich farm, or at that time it was a Snowlander ranch. They had one time Charlie Flick had one of the finest herds of shorthorn cattle in all of Canada.
We are close. We are very close to.
We are close.
Very, very close.
I get off topic easy.
We could see the CFIA stadium lights from our windows, the actual lights, and we could hear all the concerts, all the music, all the noise, everything.
You're talking about the ostrich farm and the protests and the ongoing protests that lasted many, many months, all through the summer into the fall. And they completely ignored a quarantine order from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency because of a bird flu outbreak there, and even went so far as to have concerts and invite kids and set up bouncy castles, sort of echoes of the Freedom Convoy, same kind of template over and over again here. So, but this time out of this ostrich farm. So you could hear the concerts. So it was having an impact on your daily and nightly life.
Yes.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure where we should begin with the story and the impact that it had on you. What tonight is your objective here? What do you hope to achieve by sharing your story?
Well, yeah, I thought I have a bit of a timeline with some of the things that disrupted our lives and made life uncomfortable, whatever.
Okay.
For me, it started back in January with Esper Esperson's post. I read that. I read all the replies, and I felt horrible for the farm. I felt just horrible.
Okay, so that post, to explain what that was when they announced that they had a bird flu outbreak and birds were dying.
That's correct. And they were following the CFIA protocol and not to come to the farm. They were under full quarantine. And, it gave a phone number for the CFIA if you had any questions. And just, I really felt for the family and for the birds. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of watched it for a little while. And by May, things started to turn. I joined the Edgewood Exposed group, and I started reading and posting with my own name, simple questions like, how many birds are there? I mean, we've been driving by that farm for 40 some odd years. I was always impressed with the field of ostriches, especially when they were out running around. I was always impressed with that. I mean, it's not often you see anything like that. And, nobody would ever answer that. And then I asked the question about, I thought ducks went south in the winter. And did anybody else see these 500 ducks? I got no answers on that. And then
so just to slow down again, explain. So 69 of these ostriches died back in, December, January of 2024, 2025. And the farm didn't really dispose of the carcasses properly. There was a complaint that came in anonymously to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. The CFIA shows up. They test two of the birds, I believe, with PCR testing. There was an additional round of testing that went beyond that in a laboratory where they isolated the specific strain of H5N1 bird flu, which was a novel type. It was a very unique type that had only been previously detected out in Ohio. And so there it was all the way out in Edgewood, British Columbia. And the CFIA quarantined the farm and gave them a specific set of protocols and orders to follow. which they said they were complying with, but actually never did. And that's documented in court documents where the CFIA says they never complied with orders like putting up netting over a pond to keep ducks out, which is what brings us to the whole issue of the ducks, like 500 some ducks that were being attracted to the farm, to the pond at the farm where the ostriches would water and where feed was being thrown out for the ostriches. And so, of course, other wildlife, ducks and other birds were being attracted to that area to feed and water alongside the ostriches, and therefore either infecting the flock or being infected by the flock. But it became an H5N1 bird flu incubator, essentially.
Yes.
Fair?
Yeah, fair. That you said that all very, very well. So I just kept on top of things, and my mother-in-law is 80 years old, and my brother-in-law is here, and Anne Frank and I, and the four of us were all in the same area over there, and they aren't on Facebook. They weren't participating, and so I was kind of like the family updater every morning at coffee on what's going on at the ostrich farm today, Kelly, and I would report videos or what was going on most of the time in disbelief. I don't know if it was just curiosity or disbelief that kept pushing me to be on my phone to see what was going on. It got that I was on my phone way too much. But
because it was a soap opera. It
Yes.
was a drama. It was a show.
Yes.
Is what it became, because these social media influencers picked up on the story. They were brought out there to begin live streaming, the farm itself live streaming. They defied the CFIA orders. There was a cull order issued. The farm refused. That sparked a legal battle. They went to court over this whole thing. They were standing in defiance of it. They weren't going to have their birds culled, even though they were offered compensation of $3,000 per bird, and the farm turned that down. I should also note, by the way, because of what happened last night, that our guest last night suggested that the farm owner should have been awarded about $45,000 per bird, and I told him I thought that was an absurd amount of money to offer as compensation, because it doesn't represent market value. And in fact, I didn't comment further beyond that last night because I wanted to be accurate. So I did look up research on that, and the current market value of an ostrich today is about $2,500 to $3,000 per bird, or more on the $2,500 mark, because the market has fallen out of the ostrich market in recent years. There was a time that I wasn't aware of, but my research overnight revealed to me that there was a time when ostriches were going to pull down potentially price of about $45,000, but that was way back in the 1990s, when ostriches were just beginning to be imported into North America on a larger scale for farming operations. So that was in the early days of the industry. And so, supply and demand, very low supply, an emerging industry, and you could potentially get that kind of money for an ostrich back then. But today, the market value is about $2,500. CFIA was in line with that, offering $3,000 per bird market value. So I just want to bring those facts up. Those are facts. You can find that information on Google for yourself. I'm not just making that up. $45,000 would have been a ridiculous amount of money to offer for those birds. And beyond that, I can comment further later about what the actual market value of those particular birds at the farm would actually be, which I would say is actually, or would have been, zero. Those birds were basically worthless. And I can explain that later. I have in previous broadcasts, but I'll throw it back to you, Frank and Kelly. Please continue.
Okay, so anyway, so the more I watched, the more upset I became, the less supportive of the farm owners. Like, I lost all respect for them. I couldn't listen to the videos. I would just go on and see what everybody commented and about what they had said. Their voices were, I couldn't listen to them. None of them. Jeff, Jim, Katie, mostly. I just could not listen to their voices, repeating things over every day, almost like hypnotically. So, and I started watching your show right at the beginning with Dave Dixon.
Yep, David Dixon. Yeah.
Yeah, and that just pretty much opened my eyes.
Former
completely.
police officer who was also doing some investigating and shared information here on Maverick News too. Yeah, David Dixon.
Yeah, those were very informative programs for me. But so technically, we have a farm on both sides of the highway, and my mother-in-law's out there on a quad, and these trucks go by with their flapping flags, and they inch you right over to the ditch. My dog, literally, I had 2 golden retrievers there in the back seat of my quad, side by side, and it they don't slow down. They drive so fast, and you can move over as far as you can, but they crowd you. I could stick my hand out and touch the side of that truck, but those flapping flags, my dog jumped out of and landed in an 8-foot ditch. I didn't even know he had jumped out. I turn around, look back. The ferry traffic is coming. People are stopping. This dog is limping across the road. I realized it was him, and thankfully he didn't get hurt. But I was very, very angry. That I think originally the supporters that were at that farm were just misguided, trying to help, trying to do something good, something they believed in. But as time went on, the type of people changed. And that started to get frightening. I worry about my mother-in-law. She, like I said, she's 80. She's lived here 55 years. It's not that she's fragile or frail, but I worry about her, right? Mm-hmm. So I tried to keep her updated and
Can I chime in here for a second?
Sure.
Okay. A little bit of background on our valley. This valley is everybody. We're a little old school in that as long as you're not bothering us, we mind our own business. We don't stick our nose in your business unless you affect us. And that's been the norm this whole time. And like Kelly said, at first, the protesters that came, you're going down to protest something you believe in. Good on you. You had the support in that you're doing what you feel is right. That was to be respected. Mm-hmm. But again, the quality of people, maybe that's not the right word, but the character of the people changed as time went on, and some of the falsehoods that started to come out. That's where you start to draw the line, and you start to lose, or they lost credibility with the locals, not just us, but many more. The case in point, Randy Donsler and I went to high school together. So the ones that are stepping up or to talk to you are basically from our circle. I guess we've been named a hate group, but no, we're not.
No,
who's the hate group?
No, we're not allowed to say that. We're allowed to say the exposed group.
The exposed. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know the rules here.
The protesters have. You're the haters, and on your side, You're the exposers. But that's okay, because I have my own hate club. And they have their own dedicated channel right here. It's the Rick Walker Haters Club, and it's over on the Twitch channel. I could show you the comments, but it's okay. We're kindred spirits. We both have our haters club. So, but anyway, I digress.
When they started blocking the junction and blocking the road and sitting out there and monitoring the 2 points on the highway. They'd sit there all day in their vehicles. They'd take pictures of your car, film you, take pictures of your license plate and write it down. It started to get
you when you were driving,
harassing me when you're driving, whenever. It got to be very
pickup truck.
Yeah, very nerve-wracking, scary.
So they're basically intimidating you by following you around, and just sort of like a TMZ paparazzi style.
Yeah.
And trying to make you celebrities.
Like when we would come home from the Legion after dinner, it might be, 10:30 at night. And as we're coming up the Valley Road, there's specific vehicles that are staying at the ostrich farm. One was this little orange school bus. And then there was another pickup truck that was there. And they're heading into town. There's nothing in Edgewood except a post office, a bank, and the general store. And a lot of elderly people. And it makes you wonder what were they doing in town at that time of night? But nobody ever got harassed, or maybe they didn't hear it. I don't know. But it just bothered me that I was like they were lurking or looking for something, or maybe that's when they were going and using the showers at the campground. I don't know. But
you personally, did you experience some sort of harassment or intimidation yourself?
Yeah, I just pulled off the highway in the junction, and there was a white pickup truck talking to a guy, several people standing around. And if you, like Angie knows, you come off the highway, and then there's a sharp right-hand corner to go into town. But you pass Langell Road, and then you take this corner. And the truck was right in the middle, and I couldn't see if there was any oncoming traffic. And the guy that was standing there talking to him starts going, just go around. I said, no, I can't see. So he pulled over a little bit. I went by as a little ways down the road. He came flying by me, hell bent for election. And just as he pulls up beside you, he just stomps on the gas. And then I don't know where he went because he stopped. I went into town. I'm coming back. And he was coming back towards me again and did the same thing. But I was told that there was a gentleman in a white pickup that was asked by Katie and Karen to leave because he was causing a lot of stress in everybody, even the people at the farm. But that kind of stuff scares me.
Yeah, but to their credit, they asked him to leave.
They did ask him to leave.
As far as we know.
As far as that's what I did hear.
But he was not. But it didn't stop there. There was more. Right?
Oh yeah, it just goes on and on and on. And the bigger they came, and like when Luca and Mike Rude were trespassing on people's property just across from the ostrich farm. Daisy, just across the ostrich farm. Very good friends of ours live there, and beside them is a man. He's been here all his life. I can't remember his name. Tim, but he's got. It's a different Tim.
So just to pause for a moment, these people you're referring to, is it Mike Rude?
Rude.
Okay, and Chris Dacey.
Yeah. Yes.
And some others. These are
Lucas
Robinson. These are live streamers, influencers who were brought out to the farm to amplify the narrative. And you're telling me that they were trespassing on people's properties to conduct whatever kind of live streaming they were engaging in?
Yes, and the one gentleman, this Tim guy, has some kind of a debilitating disease. I'm not sure if it's Parkinson's or something. Anyway, he's on some heavy-duty medication, and he's alone, and he's older. Used to play hockey, so his next-door neighbor, I won't say any names, but he would call him, and he would go over there and ask these people to get off the property. And Tim would have a hockey stick. I guess he used to play hockey. And the neighbor would go over to check on him once in a while. And he's, creeping around inside his house, looking out windows, carrying this hockey stick. He was scared. And if that finally stopped, but then they went elsewhere. They were up on other people. I saw, I received posts that's my dad's property that they're on right now. To get to it, they had to cross my dad's property to get to where they are. And I'm not sure if that's where they were live streaming when Lucas was cutting down a tree.
Yeah, that's
cutting down a tree.
He cut down a tree.
So you could get a better view of the ostrich farm from above.
So he's a tree murderer.
Yeah. Well, they were trying to set up
all lives matter.
Yeah.
All life matters. Yeah, I remember that.
They were trying to set up a camera for filming because they knew that when the call was going to happen or the next morning, supposedly those shots came from where they set that camera up. And a lot of them look really fake, like not real, but it upset a lot of people. And there was a lot of rage bait.
So let's dial this back a little bit because we're kind of getting down the timeline here, but I think
Yeah,
there's stuff
we wanna go back.
to touch
Okay.
on, midstream. Back to the social media live streamers, because I think that's an important place to pick up. And maybe Angie, you want to weigh in here, because I think this is going to lead us into this whole confrontation or incident that happened at the Legion. And you guys are involved in the local Legion for veterans in your
Yes.
community. And Angie, do you want to take it away from here to kind of lead this portion of the interview and what this
Well, I
incident?
think at one time there was 9 people live streaming plus the additional at the farm, and they were sharing, in my opinion, misinformation about what was going on and the support. And what was happening is people that would come to the farm would believe that the whole community was wrapping their ever-loving arms around the farm, and that's just not the case. And obviously the locals can speak for themselves, and I'm of the understanding there's less than 20, and I've been saying 325, so I need to, or 335. It's incorrect. It's 235, the amount of people. So my apologies. I gave everyone 100 extra there. So it's a very small knit community, and there's a handful of people locally that support it. There are, trust me, I have 2 kind of relatives and another individual who shared that what I'm saying, they don't agree with. They've absolutely reached out to me directly. I'm easy to find. So if they disagree with me, they can obviously connect with me. But what was happening is with all of these live viewers, live streamers, wannabe influencers coming there. First off, we do know that they were paid, and I think Rick, you have receipts on this as well. Some were paid $500 to come there. So with those who are suggesting that they weren't being paid, they were. Other people got more gas money, hotels, all the things. And so they were creating a narrative. They also are doing things to get followers. They also are doing things to get shares and clicks. And so, for example, with someone like Daisy Media, he gets paid on the shares and the clicks, just like CBC Media does. So for all y'all that don't like CBC Media, we have these journalists who are creating drama to get more people to watch. And also they are connecting to a certain mega right anti-government audience that are bringing in there's some really great people. I admit I do have some friends that are on the far right that I get along with well. Do I agree with them? No, on everything. But it's also bringing some really crappy people there. And I think that's what ended up happening that day, Thanksgiving.
At the Legion. So just to kind of tee this up. So you have these social media streamers who we've drawn attention to this behavior here on this platform, where some of these influencers go out and to protests, and they run into protests, making it look like the protests are coming to them, when in fact they're kind of running into the middle of a protest to get up in the face of people at a protest that are diametrically opposed to their position politically. It's creating confrontation, and then they portray themselves as the victim when it results in a confrontation or friction or a fight of some kind, and then they call on police to get involved, and they just escalate the whole thing. It's provocateur journalism. It's yellow journalism. It's not genuine. It's designed to create a problem, and then they portray themselves as a victim so that they get sympathy, clicks, and donations.
And what these individuals have done, and you can go back and look at videos, is when there's a kerfuffle, they jump into it to make it look like they've been attacked. That's not the case. They're jumping into the crowd. They're jumping in to the scene and hoping to be arrested to cause a scene.
And it took me a while to clue in, because this is something I think fairly new to Canada, maybe very new during the last 5 years, where you've got like a live streamer, not governed or trying to comply with Canadian Association of Journalists ethics guidelines or anything like that. No regulations, through the RDTNA or any of these journalists associations, or licensing or nothing, right? So it's a free for all. So they've learned that it's become protest TV online. So they just go to a protest, and you can't tell because you've only got one perspective on the camera. And when the parade of protesters is coming down the street, they start to shoot video of this, but they walk out into the middle of the street. You don't really think about it this way. And now suddenly all these protesters are coming straight at them, and they walk right into them. And because they're right-wing influencers and they're, basically confronting on a live stream a bunch of left-wing protesters, it's instant friction and anger. And then this is where they're like literally blocking the road at a legal, lawful, peaceful protest. and they're being the instigator, they're being the provocateur, portraying sort of the opposite perspective because you can't see what's behind them. It took me quite a while to figure out what they were doing, but that's what they're doing. And isn't that kind of what went down at the Legion, according to what you've kind of conveyed in pre-information?
You were first contact.
Okay. I might have to skip back and forth just a little bit to start off. The RCMP liaison officers were invited to the Legion for our Saturday night Thanksgiving dinner by a Legion member on Thursday, and she gave him a couple of days to think about it. Lois phoned me on Saturday and said that 2 hours before we opened, told me they were coming. I didn't know anything about it. I said, that's fine. And that Lois was coming too. And I said, that's great. So unbeknownst to me, Mike Rood and Chris Stacy had been down at the Legion the day before on Friday. And the girls were cooking, prepping the turkeys and whatnot in the kitchen. And they struck up a conversation with the girls. And I guess they were trying to sell them a banner, and his Afghanistan banner. And like the girl said, no, that's, you got to go to the executive for that. And then they said, well, what's going on tomorrow night? And she said, there's dinner, but if you want to come, you have to be here by 4, because we sell out those dinners like in minutes. Like we only have a capacity of 50 people, and we sell out very quickly. So I didn't know about that. So I went into the Legion. The liaison officers came in, and they said, Kelly, would you just let people know that we're here, and we'll introduce ourselves. I said, okay. So I let them know they were here for dinner only. And when they introduced themselves, they said, we're here for dinner. And if anybody has any concerns or worries or questions, feel free to come up to our table and we can have a chat. That was that, right?
Okay, there's something you need to tell them as well, as the RCMP officers were in fact Legion members.
One of them was, yeah.
One of them.
Yeah, one of the he was a Legion member, so he's welcome in a Legion, right?
Sure.
Well, anyway,
can we just stop there for 1 sec? We just want to relay the fact. So when you're a Legion member and you go to another community, you usually give them a heads up and acknowledge the fact that you're in town, you want to be a guest, or you want to just let them know you're in town. That's normal protocol.
When you're a Legion member, you go to another Legion, you actually sign into the Legion with your branch number. Okay, so there's always a book at the door of the Legion that guests have to be signed into, and members from other Legions have to sign in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, they came. We filled up fast. I hung a sign on the door that we were sold out, and I was sitting up the bar, and if you look out, it's a glass window on the door, and there's stairs that go up. I could see some legs and some dogs, and I didn't think anything of it. And then they were gone. And a couple minutes later, I look up and I see this guy, and he's tapping on the window. So I just motioned him in, and I didn't recognize him at first.
We didn't know anything about them, though.
Well, I had seen anyway. Yeah. So he came in, and he was very distraught. He said, "My buddy is outside. He's a veteran. He's very anxious and nervous, and he's got a service dog." And he said, "Would you come out and talk to him?" And I said, "Sure. I don't have a problem with that." So I went up, and as soon as I rounded the corner and I saw Mike Rood, I knew that maybe I shouldn't be out there. But I made the best of it. I put a smile on my face, stuck out my hand, and Mike Rude just started yelling at me, swearing at me, angry. And he's pacing, and you won't let me in with my service dog. You won't let. And I said, I never said that. Your service dog is welcome in our Legion. No, you said he can't come in there, and I'm a veteran. And it was swearing. You know, the language that he was using was just awful. And a couple of times I asked him to stop, and a couple of times I said, I came out here for a friendly conversation. Don't be yelling at me. And I'm very non-confrontational. So then when I start to tear up, when I start to tear up, Mike Rude or Chris Dacey, who was standing on Mike was in front of me, Chris was beside me. He stepped in front, and then they both started. And I'm standing there, and these two men are yelling and swearing. I just put my hands up and said, I can't deal with this. And I went back inside. Frank was sitting up by the bar. I said, there's ostrich supporters in the parking lot.
No.
I said,
there's two men, and you never said they were ostrich supporters.
Okay. I stopped it. I came in the door crying, right? And I stopped at the liaison officer's table and just said, there might be a problem coming, might be a problem in the parking lot. I didn't realize that the only one thing that Mike Rude or Chris Dacey said that was correct, he said we had to leave our dog in the truck. They left one, a puppy in training. But Spark, the puppy was Phoenix. Spark was the other one. They went and got Spark, and they came in behind me, but I didn't know they were there. I went and sat in a corner and just shook and vibrated. And then Frank greeted them at the door, or right where they came in.
Okay. First of all, I want to point out the fact that I did 21 years in the Air Force. I retired a warrant officer, and there's lots of misconception because just because you're a veteran that you're allowed free access to a Legion. That is not the fact. You either are invited or you're a member, or just the fact that you serve does not give you free entry. Okay. Having said that, when a veteran meets another veteran, first thing you do is ask them where they served. Okay. So, and this basically is to open up conversation to find out whether you knew anybody I knew. It's just a way of, basically bonding. Because we didn't have any room for them inside, we sat up at the bar and started to have a conversation. The dog, Spark, was on the floor at their feet, the one that was supposedly denied entry. The girls coming out of the kitchen had to walk around the dog because they were serving dessert. And at any rate, we initiated a conversation. One of the RCMP officers came up behind me and asked me if I needed any help. And I said, no, this is our Legion. I will handle this. As long as everybody's cool, there's no point in having any drama. So shortly after that conversation with the RCMP.
So if I can just pause for a moment. See, now you have Chris Dacey and Mike Rude, two social media influencers who have been out at the farm amplifying a pro-farm, anti-government narrative. And now they've come to the Legion, where you have a couple of the RCMP liaison officers who basically are there to keep people safe, but they're viewed by the anti-government protesters as being, an extension of the government. And they're therefore, you don't know why, what reason, but they're really not invited. They're not really supposed to be in the premises, but you're kind of allowing them. You're kind of like, okay, well, let them just they can come in.
Okay, well,
Wait,
give you a little
is that right?
background on how they got invited.
Okay, wait a minute though. When we have a sold out sign up, we always, even members got turned away that night. But the thing is, find a spot up at the bar, have a drink, have a coffee, have a pop. And at the end of the girls all serving, there might be a little bit left. I offered them that, but they were also, I forgot to say that they knew that we opened at 4 and that we would sell out early. They never showed up till 5:30, knowing that there would be no dinner left. So, okay.
Well, but the bottom line is, where they weren't really supposed to be there, but you allowed them in anyway. Is that basically it?
No, they're welcome.
They're welcome. Okay.
They're welcome. So, there was no reason that we would turn them away.
Okay.
Both the RCMP officers, they were invited,
but they didn't get dinner tickets. They couldn't get dinner tickets because they were sold out.
They were sold out.
Okay.
But you're welcome to come in and have a drink and a conversation and enjoy a good time. There was no no
issue. You come on in, bring your service dog, no issue, even though they seem to be making an issue out of it, right?
Well,
he didn't know.
Not at first.
He didn't know what had happened outside yet either.
I didn't. I would, like.
Okay.
At any rate, they came in, sat at the bar. We initiated a conversation. Neither one of them signed in. I would have expected. I am under the impression that Mike Rood is in fact a Legion member, and all he had to do was sign in with his branch number and sign in Chris.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen.
Okay.
Then the conversation, for whatever reason, escalated extremely quickly, and they started swearing at me. And I noticed that Chris, he reached up and he put this little device on the bar, and as the screaming or the swearing and obnoxious behavior started to escalate, I said, you know what, guys, it's time. Just leave. And that was pretty much the end of the whole altercation. Okay. Very quickly.
So they put a recording device on the bar.
To
record this confrontation.
Well, I think that when they couldn't pick a fight with me, they decided to come in and try to pick a fight because they knew the liaison officers were in there. One of the
that was something I missed.
One of the liaison officers flat out said to Frank that one of the people in the Legion that night, he called it a mole, and all it probably was a ostrich supporter, and must have informed, because I don't think they were going to come, but because they showed up late, but they were trying to get something. They didn't get what they came for, and the backlash that little Legion has received over this has just been horrific.
Okay. You mean they didn't get the response that you think that they were looking for because you didn't really engage in the argument?
No. The other thing was, and I thought it was an odd question that Chris asked, was, are you going to get the RCMP to throw us out? Yeah. I said, no. And at any rate, even we have ostrich supporters within our fold. So what? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But to come in and basically rude behavior is not tolerated in our Legion.
Or language like that.
So you asked them to leave.
I asked them to leave.
They weren't thrown out.
They weren't kicked out. They weren't thrown out. Anything like that at all. And then, some of the hate emails we've got and
so did they leave?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They left peacefully.
But it wasn't an hour, maybe 2 hours on our phone at the Legion was ringing, and people yelling and screaming at us because Chris had already told part of his story to somebody, and then the emails started coming in the next. Well, the first email.
When you say he's told a story, so did they live stream some of this? Is that what they were doing?
No,
they didn't.
No.
I'm a little confused. So they came in.
Not at the time. They went back to the farm and they live streamed in the lunch tent, and they told everyone what went on, and they said that they didn't respect a Legion member and they kicked them out. That is what they said on their live, and everyone was upset. So that kind of following went to other, and that hits to social media there. Other people shared the information, and it went out to the masses instantly.
We're so small that our voice doesn't get heard. Like, to contradict anything they say, well, everyone believes them right off the bat because they don't even know what we're saying.
Well,
Right.
Dominion Command was the first email I saw the next morning on a Sunday, asking us if this event actually happened. And I phoned her, or I emailed her back, or I phoned her, one or the other, and I asked if she could give us, it was a long weekend, give us a couple of days to do our incident report. And we did. The executive got together and did an incident report, sent it off to them, and they supplied they went over it and they gave us an answer, and they said that we followed all protocol and we did all the things that were proper, right?
Mhm.
And then they said, less is more. So our response to these emails, will give you this typed out response, which was very basic and whatever. Just use that, and the less you say, the better it is, right? So I went back and I replied to these emails with Dominion Commands, and that just made it even worse. So it was noisy for about 3 weeks, but some of the emails were just horrible.
Right. Okay, so if I can just summarize this. Daisy and Brood show up with a dog. You're asked to go outside. You go and meet them. He, according to you, instantly becomes verbally abusive. They're swearing, saying that they're being denied entry, that they can't bring the service dog in. You said, no, that's not the case. You allow them to go in. Frank, you greet them at the door. Everything's basically, well, okay, whatever, you can come in. We're not going to deny you entry or anything. You just come in, sit down. They go up to the bar. They're sitting there. And for an unknown reason to you, the conversation begins to escalate. It turns into a confrontation of some kind, but you're not really engaging in this argument, which they are now recording with a device on the bar. And it gets to a point where it gets so bad and the language is so foul that you have to ask them to leave. And they do comply, but then they go back to the farm. And as Angie has just indicated, they go back to the farm and they start putting out these live streams saying that they were basically kicked out of the Legion, and that they disrespected Mike Rood because he's a veteran. And
did you not watch that video of his?
I do recall seeing it, but it was one of gazillions. So it's vaguely in my memory. I do sort of remember it.
We have a member who has severe PTSD, and he has to do constant counseling just to keep him from going off the deep end.
That has nothing to do with this.
No, we have a lady who has a support dog that she carries with her all the time. We're not against having.
Yeah, that's not the issue here, though. Like, it's not about the support dog. Frank, I'm just trying to keep this on track, right? Yeah. So it's about the behavior, and it's about the live stream, and it's about the yellow journalism. It's about the provocateur journalism, which it seems like maybe that's what was going on here. You're saying that they came in, basically they set this whole thing up because they started to instantly record it. They were looking for some sort of a confrontation in your view. And you're saying that they even seem to want the police to interview asking, well, aren't you going to have the cops come over and just throw us out then? And you were like, no, we're not going to do that. But now it's so bad. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, guys. And so they did. But
their major point to that for both Daisy and Mike Rood is that they wouldn't allow the service dog in, and they wouldn't honor a veteran. That was the story. That's what they replayed. So that's bullshit, number one. And that's the story that got traction. And that's why so many people started emailing that angry mob, the Edgewood Legion.
Right.
So then we weren't allowed to defend ourselves.
No, we weren't. But they left that device that he took out of his, they left it on the bar. They didn't take it with them.
Because it's a wireless microphone.
Probably, but they still, we gave them nothing. And what that live stream that he did, and the responses, I was just gobsmacked. I couldn't believe that he could make up a story like that when that's not even remotely what happened. Not even close.
Okay.
And he's demanding respect as a veteran, as an honorable person who served in the military. And he was brutally rude. And even his presentation after, there's a ton of us that watched the lives and all of this. Like there at the time, I think there was 300 of us at times watching, even more, up to well over 1,500 at some times.
Do you guys
so we
know
all
why?
have this information.
Yeah. Did you know why they came after the Legion? Do you have any idea?
The only thing I can think of is we're an easy target. We're accepting of.
I know why. I know why. And it goes beyond the ostrich farm.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean, I hate to even talk about it. Because some of these guys I've had a lot of respect for, and they are veterans. They came into your Legion to do this because they've got an axe to grind with legions in general, the Canadian legions in general, because this is a Veterans for Freedom thing. This is about James Topp, who marched across Canada during the pandemic, and he was, the story with James Topp, who I have immense respect for, and I think in so many ways what he did should have been a unifying moment for Canada. But the narrative, and I don't know how true all of this is, but legions basically didn't want anything to do with him because there was all this controversy surrounding the march that he was engaged in, because the politics was so thick and it was the pandemic, and what he was doing was viewed by many as sort of a far right thing. And so he was sort of shunned. And so since then, there's been this divide, this wedge between this particular veterans group. And I know some of these guys, and a lot of them are really, really good guys. I'd say the vast majority, and maybe all of them, but they're upset. And so Chris Dacey, I don't believe he's a veteran, but he's connected with V4F. I know these guys. They're pissed. They're pissed off. So Dacey came to you because it's the Legion, and because you had a couple of RCMP liaison officers in there. And so you became, I think, in my view, kind of a target, because they say they won't support the Legions anymore. They really are upset with Legions, and this group of veterans, they want nothing to do with the Legions really anymore, and they won't buy poppies and they won't support it because they feel that they were politically silenced, or there was an attempt to cancel them, and they feel they were disrespected. So that's a lot of what was going on there that you're not aware of. But I've just got so much background with all of this, and I know what went on. I see all that writing on the wall and the motivation behind it and the emotion, and I see both sides of it, but at the same time, the behavior not respectful. And so if you got an issue, then just stay the hell out. But that's not what happened here, and they tried to turn this into an issue again. And that has become, and I'm sorry to say it, Chris, but that's what you've been doing, and it's just blatantly obvious, and that's not journalism. And in this case, it damages people. It damages V4F. It damages veterans. It damages the reputation of journalists. And that's what was going on there. And it's also about the ostriches as well. And it's a way to generate clicks and views. And, I'm sorry that I have to even talk about it this way, but I wish this stuff would just stop, because you suffered, your community suffered, your Legion suffered, other veterans have suffered. You see, the damage from something like this just goes way beyond what I think Mr. Dacey realizes. And it's not right, and it needs to stop. But there it is. And that's the deeper background on what predicated this behavior in your Legion?
How many veterans do we have in our Legion?
Right now, veterans,
There's
4.
me, there's my
4.
brother.
4. Ray and Andre, 4.
Ray and Andre. And we have, like Angie says, in our entire valley, there's what,
235.
under 300 people.
Yeah.
And yet we have over 100 members of our Legion. This community is like stepping into a freaking time warp. We still have values, and we still look out for each other and take care of each other. If there's a senior that can't come to the Legion, we'll take a dinner to them. That kind of thing.
I know. And you know what, Chris, Daisy, if you want to come on here and talk about it, you're welcome to. But I mean, you've already had your voice. You've already told your story. But I've been watching, man, and I'm disappointed, and I'm saddened. This is terrible, and I feel for you guys. I see exactly what's going on here, but I'll listen to all sides of a story. So if these two guys want to come on here, I'll talk to them.
After it all went down, I did a little looking into Mike Rood. He has done some pretty nice things in support of veterans. And I don't know why he had to, in our eyes, destroy all the good that he's done by screwing us over. And what hasn't been really nailed home, it was a veteran that asked a veteran to leave because of his behavior.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah. So, I mean,
our Prime Minister says, full stop.
Well, you know what, though?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of do need to move on. I think we've covered this.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a fuller perspective. Yeah. Angie, is there anything you want to, I know that this was something you guys wanted to focus on a bit tonight. And I'm glad that you did, because it's clearer for me, but go ahead.
It's just another issue of the BS, and you call it provocateur journalism. Like, I don't even call it journalism. Mm-hmm. It's just getting attention, like a 3-year-old having a temper tantrum. That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's what we could see from those of us watching the live. Yeah. And those of us who know the people in Edgewood, that's just not how, it's just not how they live. It's not what they're very neighborly. They have values of, 35 years ago for us. They still give each other eggs and sugar and whatever they need. If someone's ill, they help out. Right. And so what they've created is this even tighter knit community that is really scared of the gong show that's at the end of the road. And I think that it's concerning, because at one point there was 9 different men out there videoing themselves asking people for money. And that's the more creation, the more BS, the more anxiety, the more tension they create, the more people watch, the more people give them money. That is what it is at the end of the day. They were doing it for money, and it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Rebel News did it too. We all watched when they leaned over the fence and screamed. And so I just think if all of those people are upset with how the CBC does points and clicks and all that, Rebel News and these wannabe influencers do the damn same thing.
Okay, so if we move on,
I'll tell you what, let's take a little break.
Okay.
And people can digest that over the next, minute or so while we run this, and then we'll come back and resume on the other side.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back. And you know, if there are people out there who want to attack me because of what I'm saying here today, I didn't do it. All right. And if you're in the business of live streaming and influencing, I would hope that you're doing it to help people and even protect people, not pick fights with people. But hey, you know, for those of you who just want to be on a team and attack me for saying that, you go right ahead, because the truth is the truth is the truth. Anyway, we lost Kelly. She'll be coming back there.
Yeah, she had to go put another nail in her coffin.
Oh, heavens. Are we back live?
There we go. All right. So, okay, I'll throw it over to all three of you to kind of decide where we go next from here.
I had two things that I needed to mention about Lois. Okay.
Okay, this is the woman who was, we're told, doused in gasoline, punched in the face by someone police say was a supporter of the farm and a protester.
Yes. Okay. On September 20th, 2 days before the RCMP and CFIA arrived, I was at home and she phoned me and she's quite upset. And she said, I had to walk home. My truck is on Langell Road. She'd gone down to feed some friends' dogs while they were away. And as she was coming back, a pickup truck blocked the road, wouldn't let her pass, wouldn't let her. And she asked nicely and he would not move. So she got out of her truck and she walked home and called me. She said, but I need my truck. I want my truck home. I don't want to leave it there. So I said, okay, I'll come down, but I'm not coming down there alone. And Frank and Walter were doing farm boy stuff, whatever it was at the time. So I phoned a friend and he got there before I did. And he had phoned Dave Belinsky and they met at the junction at the crossroad there. And they started, yelling at each other. I was standing there wondering what the heck to do, trying to stay way back out of the way. And I ended up walking over there because all the protesters that were standing around were watching this. And my friend was extremely angry. Like he was furiously angry. And I got a little scared. I got a lot scared. So I went in over and I just touched his arm and I said, let's go. Let's go. This is over. And he started to move away, but Dave kept following and the beaking back and forth kept on and on and on. And I was watching this crowd watching these two, and I finally got him away. And by the time I went and got my Jeep, he had gone around and Dave had gone around the other side and they were at the fence again. And so I had to get in between them there. And then my friend went and got Lois's truck. The guy that was blocking the road said, I can't find my keys. And then it was, my truck won't start. He was making up all these excuses. But I mean, the harassment of Lois was enormous. I was down there many times and witnessed the people yelling at her over the fence and just horrible. They were just nasty to her. And then the morning that the CFIA came and
she lives right next door to the farm, right?
Right next door. Yeah, right there. We were building a house, so we were staying in our RV out here, and she had called me because the RCMP and everybody had showed up. Langell Road was completely blocked by the supporters. They had it cut right off. You could not get down there. She called me and said that she was okay, and they had a group of people and they had a big fire out at the end of her driveway, and they were all standing around down there. And she said she was okay. 10-15 minutes later, my phone rings. I pick it up and she's just screaming. Like she's
hysterical.
She's hysterical. They're lighting me on. They're lighting my house on fire, Kelly. They're pouring gas. Frank and I BS down the highway, and we were in touch with Randy and his brother-in-law. They were on the other side, coming in from the backside. We couldn't get to her, but we stopped where the RCMP were. And of course, they were so busy trying to set up and get their satellites, but they took the time to listen to Frank and got Lois's house pinpointed on their satellite, and my phone was sitting on the dash, and I had said to Randy, call me. When you get to her, call me. And my phone rang, and I said, that's the two guys that are coming in from the back way with Lois. He said, I want to talk to him. So I turned the phone on, and I told Randy the RCMP was standing there to go ahead. And the RCMP said to him, do you smell gasoline? And Randy said, it's all over. It's all over Lois. It's all around her house. Very, very strong. And the videos,
I have video. So there is video that's been out there. I have a copy. So let's run this, and this will show people kind of what happened at the scene. This is just after the incident, and then there's a video of the video here.
But
like I'm a very I'm like a conservative board member. I'm a diplomat. That's what I do. And what I see from that non-stop for the last several months is just disgusting with your tweets that is just beyond, normalities, and it's just truly a
So this guy they originally kind of nabbed, but it turns out this was not the guy.
No, it was the guy.
This is the
It
guy?
was the correct guy. It was him, yep.
Okay,
They let him
at least
go.
this is the guy
and
that
they
was in the car.
rearrested him.
no, there's a video with somebody all in black and a black mask.
there's the guy with the video.
Hey, there's a guy with a video over here.
Bring that up to the police. Oh, you have it there. Good.
They're screaming bloody murder, and then I caught him.
Hey, you guys, what's an officer?
She's got a major problem. This has been going on as long as
Hey, can you back it? Sorry, no. Just back it up a little bit, freeze frame it, and I'm going to take a picture of that. That's okay.
I just don't know which one would be the best frame to. There's one that's right in front of this white billboard.
That's not the guy that was with
No.
the mask.
Looks like a blue mask to me. Hat with some kind of white lettering on it. Black pants, black shirt.
How big is that video file?
I've got it down to a minute right now, but I can forward it to you if you like.
I don't recognize that guy.
Yeah, I've never
seen him either.
Sir, we do not recognize.
Yeah, no, hey, that's totally fine.
Straight up, man.
I have not seen anybody that matches that description since I've been there.
So the,
You see the footage, guys? See
do
the
we
footage?
have a place if this fella
Okay.
But there was another video where they're filming it, and all the supporters are standing around singing hallelujah, glory, glory, hallelujah.
That's disgusting. Those individuals who stood by and watched and filmed are the most disgusting, low-life human beings on this planet. That woman, she was that close to getting set on fire.
So we could just talk about that for a minute. Where was the gas put around her house? Do you guys mind sharing that?
It was around the front part.
On her porch.
On her porch. On the front part, because it's a door she never ever goes out. She doesn't use that one. But I guess she thought her cat was out there. So she went to open the door just as he was reaching into his pocket. And the only saving grace, she got hurt and she's very rattled, was she bit him.
She bit his arm, and that's how they identified that.
And kicked him in the private parts as well. But she bit him. And after they let that guy go that you saw in that video, they re-arrested him once they found the bite marks on his arm. But the comments coming immediately that morning were that it was the exposed group. It was a setup. What did Lois get paid to take that hit? It wasn't the support.
They actually blamed two individuals locally for that. We won't mention their names here to honor them, but that's what they chose to do. And I think we can touch on the fact that there's no love lost between the farm and Lois.
None.
And what's been happening, and we will hear it from other people, it was a party, sometimes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week there with all of these yahoos there. There's music all the time. There's lights all the time. There's a fire at the driveway. And I think we need to talk about that, about how there is a fire in the middle of the frickin' road. So anyone that's going to Lois's, it's a challenge to get to her house. So now you've damn near cut off a woman's like road to get to her house. You put a fire in the middle of it for your security. And how disrespectful is that? And then the story I tell, they all coached all of those people to not like Lois, to ignore her, to hate on her. And this is how it escalated. I'm not saying the farm is directly responsible for it, but they sure encourage people not to like her.
How do you get support when you do that to one of us? How do you expect us to support you? It just boggles my mind. Anyway.
Yeah. And so these allegations haven't been proven in court yet, but it is in court. I think Angie, you said that the man accused has made a court appearance, I think yesterday, right?
Yeah, he goes back January 22nd. And how they caught him is there was a security guy named Doug. And Doug said on the live that, yes, it was Tim. We're saying allegedly because he's been charged. But there was bite marks on his arm that were seen. And once Doug said that, he's like, obviously it was him. So all of that'll go into court as well.
And the police dog is like they brought a police dog in, and the police dog went straight to Tim.
Anyway,
yeah, that was just the most horrible day. And you know, after that, the tension and the fear and it just escalated everything.
You know, if you want to drum up, like I say, you want to drum up support for your cause. That's not how you do it.
No. And, you know, the hay bales getting lit on fire, that field is not far from our farm. And it's dry.
There's a peat bog down there.
Yeah. And, you know, like nobody's thinking about how fast that could have spread, taken off, a little bit of wind. And those are the things that keep you up at night. We could see all those lights and we could hear all the music. And it was like it never, ever went away.
Right. So if we just back up, you're talking about the CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, to prepare for the cull, began moving in hay bales to set up walls, right, out in the
straw
field.
Bales. Technically, it was straw
bales.
Yes,
okay, straw bales, and so tons, like a whole bunch of these straw bales, tons of them, and they caught fire, not once, but how many times?
Twice, 3 times.
I think it was 3 times.
Our department was down there for days
in the middle of the night. Yeah,
it basically wore out most of the people. We were going to call
and the thing is with these straw bales, it's possible for them to spontaneously combust. Spontaneous combustion is a real thing. It's possible, but for it to happen once, but then to happen second time, and I think it was 3 times, but even a second time, so it became very clear that someone was setting them on fire. And I know that the protesters, these live streamers, influencers, were blaming the CFIA and the RCMP of setting the straw bales on fire, which in my mind is like crazy. I'm just not buying it. And for it to happen multiple times, well, who would do that? Who would really have the motive to do it? Well, I can't draw a conclusion, but I think you can kind of figure it out. If you're a reasonable and an intelligent person, you can put 2 and 2 together and figure this thing out. And I looked into it, like how would you sabotage a straw bale? And there are ways that it's been done. And there's a history of it being done around the world by activists and things of that nature. But anyway, it's just one time you can maybe chalk it up to an accident, but multiple times catching fire, pretty clear that somebody's doing it intentionally.
Yeah.
It's arson. And the danger that came from that. Do you want to talk about that and how it made you feel?
Well, if that fire had persisted and got into the peat in the ground, it would have gone up the valley into our farm. And, like we've got a couple of fields down right beside that ostrich farm. And to put out a peat fire, you have no idea where it's going to pop up, when it's going to pop up. It could burn for years. Down
Underground.
in the Burns Bog down in Vancouver area has been burning for damn near 100 years, as far as I know.
And look, we've had multiple seasons of massive wildfires, and all around the farm you have trees, woods, just as far as the eye can. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere there, really, and you're surrounded by trees.
Lots of them.
Your forest.
We live here for a reason, and they've come here, and now Edgewood's on the damn map.
Yeah. So these things get set on fire. They're risking a wildfire. They're risking people's lives. They're risking the lives of the ostriches because they're in the pen where these
So when
things
people
were set on
question
fire.
the locals,
Whoever set them on fire, and you can decide for yourself. I'm not accusing anyone specific.
but
Go
I
ahead,
think
Andy.
when people question why the locals are scared to speak up, here's a perfect example why. Because someone, we believe, went out there and set those on fire. They didn't combust. It happened 3 times. So now you have people blocking other people's driveways. You're bringing in people that, are not of sound mind. You're bringing in some good people that really want to do well for the birds and the farm, and they all have their hearts in the right places. But you're bringing in a bunch of scammers too. And I hold account to all of the grifters that were standing there asking for money to keep this production going. There was 1 out of 10 men that did not ask for money that were live viewing and updating things.
And if I may, this whole, their hearts are in the right place. But you mentioned something important, Angie, and that's the mental illness. That's something also that our guest last night, Dave, he mentioned, the donor. And the reason he said he donated was because he saw the mental illness that was out there, and the stress, and he wanted people fed to keep them calm because of the mental distress that he was seeing. The truth of the matter is, this was something of an information warfare campaign. It was something of a psyop, because they were tapping into, through these live streams and the narrative that they were spinning up, where they were trying to turn these ostriches in people's minds, where they did turn these ostriches in people's minds into humanized, personified characters with names, where people could then feel for them on a human level. They were messing with people on an emotional level, using the most powerful, manipulative, influential media tool ever created by mankind, social media. More powerful than television or cinema or any other kind of advertising, marketing medium ever created. They were using social media to appeal to people on an emotional level. And so, we keep saying and hearing that their hearts were in the right place. No, I don't think so. I think that this is me editorializing, people's hearts were in an emotional place, and they were thinking with their hearts, and because they have been largely manipulated, influenced to view these birds, this livestock, as something more, as something on par with human beings, because they were using phrases like, these birds are going to be murdered. They're violating these birds' rights. They're giving them names like Sarah. And see, animals, even though you have animal rights groups, animals don't have rights. People have rights. And we limit people's rights to protect animals. So you don't have the right to abuse an animal, but the animal itself doesn't have rights. But I can get into the legal nuance of it. The point is, people weren't thinking straight, and they're still not thinking straight, because they're not viewing this through a rational lens. They're looking at all this in a very irrational way, because it's entirely predicated on emotion, which even our guest last night, the donor, Dave, who donated a substantial amount of money, has conceded that, yeah, he was manipulated and convinced and decided to donate a massive amount of money to this protest because he was emotional about it. Everybody about the birds, not about the science. It's not about the science. It's not about the law. It's not about anything other than that for these people. It's just this was why it was such an effective information warfare psyop, because it came down to this. All they want to do all they're still doing is appealing to people with this simple message: save the ostriches, save the birds. We got to just save the birds. No matter what, you just got to save the birds. We have to save Spirit, the ostrich. We have to save Sarah, the ostrich. You see? Because their rights are being violated. They're going to murder these birds. This is a murder pen. They didn't murder the birds. They culled the birds because they're livestock. This is what was going on. And so heart's in the right place. No, the hearts were in the wrong place. They were in people's brains exclusively, to the point where people couldn't think rationally and keep their emotional crap together. They were losing it. And that's where the mental illness comes in. And a lot of these folks out there, they've been abused over years now. And I've been witnessing it. I talk about it all the time. These political activists are weaponizing mental illness through social media. And that's what was going on out there. That's why people are so engaged, Kelly. That's why you couldn't put your phone down, because you become emotionally engaged in this stuff and you can't let it go. It's the video you can't stop watching. It's the most dramatic, most emotionally riveting soap opera in the history of mankind. That's what you were subjected to. Brainwashing, essentially.
And the thing is, Kelly lives there. So it's next door. Whereas all of these other people are engaged, all of these other people from right across the country. Like, I have people right now messaging me from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland that are currently watching this and sharing details. And like, they're all engaged. They've watched all of the lives. We've had these watch parties and criticized some of the lives, and ourselves for that matter. And I always tell the story. There was 1,000 of us watching when that bin was going down the road. We're all watching this. So when ex-volunteers and locals ask a question, like, I can put it in a TikTok and find out the answer to that immediately. It's been the weirdest social experiment I've ever seen. And what's challenging is, I go to Edgewood, I go to the store, I go to the baseball park, I go to the market. So this affects me indirectly, but it affects a bunch of my friends and family. And this is where I get passionate. And for all of them to not be transparent, for all of them to mislead and not share the information, they should have talked about the court documents. If they were going to be transparent, they should have talked about the failing of not putting up the fencing, not having proper quarantine. The story we tell is that they were in financial ruins, and that's why they couldn't do it. But all of a sudden you create a narrative and you get all of these other people on board, and you literally go in and you tag yourself in with the Freedom Convoy, who are anti-government, who want freedom, but freedom of what? This is the interesting part. If they really wanted freedom, wouldn't they allow the locals to speak up? Wouldn't they allow the locals to have their voice? But that's not the case. The whole entire right-leaning media did not give the locals a voice. They did not talk. They didn't even go and talk to Lois when they were right freaking there. So if these convoy wannabe people leaning right, saying that they are all for freedom, they sure as sugar did not consider anyone in Edgewood's freedom.
Yeah.
Well, there was video of what is it, Katie, or chopping up an ostrich with a smile on her face.
No, that was a picture of Karen.
That was Karen. And they were.
Anyway,
there
was a photo from some time back, and eating an ostrich for dinner.
Yeah, that not to change the subject there, but if we want to go, I spoke to Angie,
because they did some for food. But go ahead.
I spoke to Angie about this today, and we have not mentioned this to, a few close friends, but We moved here in December of 2021, and we've been coming here for 40 plus years, but we moved here lock, stock, and barrel. And Frank's dad passed away 6 months later, almost to the day that we got here. And so we arranged his celebration of life for June 16th of 2022, which would have been his 85th birthday. And it was outside. Dave Belinsky came. He is not friends with Jim and Anita. I mean, they had some business dealings years and years and years ago, but they're not friends. He did not approach Anita, didn't go anywhere near my mother-in-law. He went straight to Frank and asked him.
He wanted me to invest in the ostrich farm because he had the cure for COVID.
Oh, just before, okay, can we just pause there for a moment? Angie, who was it? What's the name of the gentleman or the person who was charged for the
Tim Regan,
right, in the Lois assault case? Yeah. Okay, just wanted to put that out there. So, because just for the record, that's the person charged in court, and we'll see where that goes. So back to you. So Dave Belinsky wanted you to invest in the farm?
Mm-hmm. But you know what? I left the Valley in 1975, right after graduation. My dad, Dave, offered me a job logging with his cousin Eric, and to go on with all that kind of stuff. And basically, my dad basically told me that I had to leave the Valley for a year, and that there was no way in hell I was going to work for him. So that was a long time ago.
Andrew said that it would be a good point to bring up that the man came to the farm on his dad's celebration of life, went straight to the oldest son. I don't know, maybe he thought Frank had money. No idea, but you know, it was pretty
distasteful. At the time, they went around to other locals and other former satellite farmers, and they asked for investment. And then at other times, allegedly, they went and said, "Can someone give us some money because we can't feed the birds?" So that's been happening on and off, is my understanding, for the past 10 to 15 years, especially over the past 5 years, because there has not been an income for about 15 years because the slaughtering of the birds has just not taken place because there's no market for it.
Well, then when the fires were in 2021 and Edgewood properly they were evicted, or not evicted.
They were
evacuated. They were on evacuated.
Evacuated. Jim and Anita came. We were in Grand Forks at the time, and Jim and Anita came there. And I mean, at that time, they set up the GoFundMe because they said, people were bringing their animals there, and they needed to feed animals for people that were getting out that couldn't take their animals. None of that was true. Absolutely none of that was true. Nobody took their animals there.
And no one would give them their house plant to look after, let alone a cow.
So I know that they were on television talking about taking in animals from the area. Because I've seen the clip that's still out online, but you're saying that in reality, no other farmers took their animals to their the Universal Ostrich Farm.
No.
Most farmers didn't evacuate. If you had animals, you stayed. Jim and Anita had to go because Jim had COPD and it was very, very smoky, but Walter stayed back. But people don't just leave your 500 or 600 cows or chickens or pigs and run. And they would not take them to, they wouldn't have taken them to there's no fencing, there's no barns, there's whatever, no fencing, no barns, no nothing. But they were go funding for feed, and I know Jim was pretty angry.
So they were asking for donations to feed animals, but in reality, they didn't have any additional animals there from the locals at all. but they were still asking
right.
for donations and saying they were doing this. And Angie,
There
I think
was
you've
two-
got a personal story with regard to this too, right?
Funny enough, I do. So
Yeah.
there was two, I'm just going to add this. There was 2 GoFundMe's done in 2021. And why do I know this? Because if you guys remember, I hosted the 2011 fire evacuee Facebook group that was just for the locals that were staying there or those that chose to leave. So rather than having everything on the main Edgewood page, I'm the one who created that. I'm the one who owned that. So I was coming to get my trailer. I still have it. There's a couple of times I've almost brought it up just to battle some things online. But so what happened at that time, I was coming to pick up my trailer. I asked if anyone needed anything. I was permitted to go and pick it up. And I got asked if I would bring some bird feed to the farm. I said, sure, no problem. I'll have my dad's truck. And then I got told, we'll pay you when you get here. And I'm like, you'll pay me when I get there. And so I phoned a friend who lives in Edgewood and said, hey, they told me to pick up the feed and they'll pay me when I get there. And they said they have no credit anywhere, Angie. And so I wasn't going to do it anyways, but I just left it at that. And so out of the 2 GoFundMe's that were raised, $8,000 was raised in one. And if you go and you look at Castanet, Michaud Fire from 2021, and I believe it's August, I want to say 17th or something like that. There's 2 GoFundMe's in that news report on Castanet. One is $1,800 was raised from a gal in West Kelowna. They tried to organize and get a helicopter to drop off feed. It ended up the road, because the roads were closed. There was 3 fires at the time. It was a challenge to get through. There was also another fire in Cherryville. So they were trying to find if they could helicopter food in. They didn't need to. They drove it in. But with the $8,000 GoFundMe, for some reason, it's not live anymore. I've hosted a number of GoFundMe's. All of mine are still live, like they're still there. And I wonder why that is, that you can't click on that link. Is it because the locals complained that no one's giving their money, their food, or anything to them, and they shouldn't be doing a GoFundMe? So that started in 2021. So for any of us that know that they have been collecting, this is a history of collecting money for stuff that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
I think we should get on to the cattle drive.
Okay. Well, that was just these were not
drives. We're switching gears to another story now.
Well,
yeah, I think it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take another break, and after we come back, we'll dig into the next chapter in the ongoing ostrich saga.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV,
The entire world is watching.
on social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
We're back and we're live.
Okay, you want to?
Well, we had neighbors. Our cattle all come down from the range, but we are west of the farm, the ostrich farm, so they just go in, and it wasn't a problem. But our neighbors' cattle came down. They had the range up from us, and the guy that they had looking after it was out fishing, and the other guy that was there, stopped at our place, and I asked him if he wanted help. So Frank and Walter and I went to help him, and we had two groups, one small one, and Frank had a bigger one behind us, and Walter and I got, just as we rounded the corner, and
Give or take around 60.
that the corner of that highway was plugged with cars and people all summer long, all September, October. There was just always plugged up with people. And these cows are very, very skittish. They're not used to quads or people. They're horseback, right? Anyway, they round the corner. They saw these people. The first group just took off across the field, straight across the ostrich field, and disappeared into Never Land.
But that was because of the protesters on the highway,
right,
that spooked them into the field.
Into the field. But at least they went that way and not back onto the highway.
Who's the guy with the?
Jim Kerr was out there filming it. And
there's wild cows and
yeah. So Walter and I went ahead because we knew Frank was coming with a bigger group, and just get these people out of here, to get them out of here. And it was just chaos. They didn't want to move. They wanted to film it. It's like, you're going to have to move.
These city people really, they don't belong or didn't belong there at that time because they're just plain stupid.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Jesus.
You city slickers.
Yeah.
I agree. I've said it. I agree.
Out there, leave us alone. Let us work. Yeah. This is our livelihood that you're interfering with, morons.
So we get them, they get moving, and the highway's cleared, and we get to the junction, and of course, they're all whack of them there. We get the cows in the junction, just about to round this corner, and supporters come from the other direction, and they start honking their horns.
Because there's cows on the road. They're honking their horns.
Yeah. They bolted up the mountain, headed back towards the highway that would have taken them to the ferry. And I went back up. Frank and Walt and the other guy were in the bushes, and it was quite steep. And I'm up there, and the cows are all on this rock bluff, and there's babies and very heavy cows.
They weren't babies; they were calves.
Calves, baby cows. Yeah, they were up there, and it's not safe up there where they were, but they managed to get them turned around. And when I went back down, the police officer stopped me, and he said, "Do you want me to stop all traffic both ways for a little while?" I said, "You wouldn't mind doing that?" And we managed to get them past, but it was chaos.
And one of the protesters, we told her to get out of the way, and then she says, "Oh, he verbally assaulted me." Well, you shouldn't be in the middle of the damn road honking your horn when we're trying to push cows.
It was just a chaotic, you call it the crazy ostrich farm. I call it Edgewood chaos. It was chaos for months and months and months, every day.
So
here to support farmers.
Yeah. I think that's really what the story is here for you guys, right? It was just disruptive to your everyday life. Tell me about just the impact that it had on you emotionally over time, the constant parties that you're telling us about. And I wasn't there. I'm just witnessing this stuff online, like millions of other people. So give us your personal account. How did this, just give us the overall aerial view, broad picture? What impact has this had on your life, and convey that to the people so they can understand?
Well, for me, it was one, basically discrediting our Legion, disrespecting the people that live here, trying to set one of our own on fire, disrupting our lives as far as moving animals and regular everyday work. You know what? I'm damn near 70 years old myself, and running up a mountain side to turn cows around. Come on, you know, if they hadn't been there, it would have been a smooth transition. It would have been straight down to the other pasture. Not a big deal. But with all these crazies driving up and down the road, yelling wild cows,
How it affects your life.
Well, it pissed me off.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was disruptive that they turned it into a media circus, into a circus in general, and it upended your entire community, is what you're telling us.
Pretty much. That's yes.
Yep. For me, it was a very emotional roller coaster ride, up and down, and disbelief and fear and whatnot. And I never wanted to see anything happen to those ostriches. I didn't. You know, I felt for them. And the night of the call, I was out here by myself, and I listened to every one of those gunshots, and the tears were rolling down my face. It didn't last 5 hours, I'm pretty sure. And there were, I heard Randy say it the other night too, that he didn't hear any gunshots in the morning, and neither did I. But that was tough. That was knowing what was happening at that point. That was hard. And I, I thought, okay, maybe it had to happen. It had to happen. And now this is over. But it's not over. And that's what's so hard.
I just want to be left alone.
It's not over. They just need to go home. All those people, two people died up there. They died. Two dead people. Don't they care about anybody? Like all those people.
Explain. I was sort of speaking over you, but you're referring to the two people who died?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, it was so callous. It was just, to me, it was very cold and callous. And I mean, nobody died here today, Katie said. And then she starts to laugh and says, oh, yeah, I forgot about Tom. Well, these people are sleeping in their cars. It's cold. Some of them are sleeping in tents. Like, there's no compassion. There's nothing. I'm a very emotional person to start with. And things like that upset me. And I've lived the last year or whatever in a very emotional imbalance, mostly, you try to not think about it, but it's on your mind all the time.
Yeah. And the people who died, I think one person died because there was some sort of an abscess that ruptured in their mouth, and it resulted in complications and a heart attack or something like that. I may not be getting the details. Sure. What's that?
That's what the farm has said. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not sure.
Is it safe to say that the farm and its supporters, protesters, held the community hostage for a year, in a sense?
Hostage. We were free to come and go. We didn't have to drive down there, but then again, you do have to drive down there if you go to Vernon, or if to get out of Edgewood, you got to go past there. And I know a lot of people, like you were saying too, Andrew, that didn't want to.
Well, didn't want to go to a doctor's appointment, didn't want to go get groceries. And you guys do that anyways. In the small community, there's so many times when someone's going, hey, is someone going to Vernon or Lumbee or Nakusp? Can you pick up my prescriptions? That happens often. Is someone coming from Kelowna? Because occasionally I grab something from Vernon or Kelowna for someone when I come in. So that it's kind of funny to say, but y'all don't want to drive 45 minutes to go get a prescription if someone else is going, right? Like that's right. So, and what my understanding is from a number of people that I've talked to is they would rather have just stayed at home, because some people were scared they would come back, their house may be ransacked, or it may be lit on fire. And that was a common theme of many people that I talked to over the summer.
And those, to be fair, those are fears, which may or may not be entirely valid, but that was your perception. That's how you felt. Sure. And that's still valid, because how you feel about your home and your community, whether there's a real threat or a perceived threat, perception to you is real, and you did feel threatened. So, I think it's fair. The protesters who are out there, by and large, may have a different perspective on it. They, I'm sure, probably didn't view themselves as being a threat, but to you, it was intimidating, because it's a small community. You're not used to having something like this going on. It's foreign to your community. It's like, what the heck is this? And all these people from even the city coming in here. This is the kind of thing that a protest like this is the kind of thing that you might see in a large city. And what's it doing in our community? And then just the weirdness around it all too. And I think the lies that became apparent. So there was a trust issue there. And then there were these incidents with the gasoline, and that escalates the concern. So I think that it's more than one thing can be true at the same time. A lot depends on perspective, but this was your experience. And I think what you're conveying here is fair and valid. Angie, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a couple questions and comments coming through, when you're coming off Highway 6, you're either coming from Cherryville or you're coming from Nakusp. And there you have to go down the Inoculin road to get gas, to get food, to go to the credit union, to go to the post office. And so when you have a bunch of people standing there at the road, at the junction, videoing people, challenging people, going up and asking people, and if you're not on the right side of their belief, they argue with you. And there was a handful of confrontations, but I think the biggest challenge is that majority of the supporters, ex-supporters of the farm that I've spoken to, they didn't talk to other locals. There's a handful of locals that were there. Some went to make food, and some camped there, and some were helping out, but they really didn't. The supporters, in my opinion, and also the wannabe influencers, they didn't check to see if there was other needs from other people in the community. And so why I say that it was held hostage and hijacked is because there's a ton of people there that don't want this crap, and they don't want it right now, and they wish it was all cleaned up and gone. And I just think that it's not over yet. There is conversations about the farm. They said they're going to start over again with new ostriches, but as they don't own the farmland that they're on, they're in a legal court battle right now, which goes to court April of this year to be evicted. What is their next step? What is their next game? And if we just change one person's mind and have them, I wouldn't even say change their mind, just have them look at the details, look at CSO, Court Services Online, put their names in there, find out there's more than 69 civil suits against them. Like, my history made me, right? So their history makes them. And there's court documents for theft. There's court documents for misappropriation of investment funds. There is numerous, I think, 8 different satellite farms who feel like they were taken advantage of. And
you know what, Angie? See, this is why I say it was the other side, the protest side. They won the information warfare campaign. They continue to win because everything that you're conveying out, most of the stuff that we've talked about here tonight, except for the personal accounts of Frank and Kelly, it's all technical. It's just like, oh, that's court. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, so we just have to save the ostriches. People don't care. They don't care. But so the question really is Why does any of that matter with regard to what has been going on at the farm? Why should any of the people who just wanted to save the ostriches, why should they care about all of the things that came before, the court cases, the litigation, the property issues, the donations, the allegations of grifting, all of these things from the past and even ongoing? When it comes right down to it, they don't care. But why should they care about all of this other stuff?
It shows character.
There's foreclosures. There's there's just a history. There's liens on property. It's been a Ponzi scheme from the start. It started with a $20 million investment fraud. That's what it started with in the late 90s.
So
and
what we've been witnessing with this whole Save the Ostriches thing, is this an extension of all of that stuff from the past, or was this like legitimately an effort to save the ostriches, or was this all just a bunch of bunk where they were framing it that way when in fact it was really the motivation was something else, and people, the public, everybody's really being duped?
If they would have went ahead and honored the CFIA's and slaughtered their own animals, they would have got $3,000 per bird. That money would have went directly.
They would have received about 1.2 million if the bird count was accurate at that time. What's that?
That would have went to creditors. So why not start a GoFundMe and continue the ruse and the Ponzi scheme for another couple years? And this is all.
That's a very key point. Yeah.
This is not an opinion. You can go to CSO Court Services online and you can look all this up in British Columbia. You can look up their last names. You can look up Rocky Mountain Ostrich. You can look up Columbia Ostrich and UFO and their last names. Make sure you click partial just in case you spell it wrong. And you can find 69 civil suits. And like I say, if someone gets divorced or you get in an accident or you have some sort of legal trouble with your business partner, you're going to have some of those civil. I've been in a car accident. I didn't pay a credit card debt when I was young. I have a couple blemishes on mine, but when there's 21, it's an issue. When there's 69, that is a history. And I think what people think is if we are kind of anti-farm, we're not anti-birds. Like you heard here, Kelly was upset. I was watching it online, reaching out to locals, checking to see if they were okay, because I was not okay listening to it. And, that brings up our own emotion as well. But I think, I've said this from the get-go, that farm is not a good community partner. And what farm do you know? And if you don't live in a rural community, maybe you're not connected to farmers, but what farmer do you know wouldn't go and help their neighbor? And when the large barn fell 17 years ago, the community came out and helped them. They risked their lives to get in there to help bring some of those birds out, because I think there was 35 or 37 that died. But something has shifted and changed over the years. When too many people get swindled, when investments go sideways and too many lies happen, and you just don't want to have anything to do with them. And that's where we are today.
Here's the thing. If none of this had happened at all, those birds were livestock. They were going to be dead anyway. I'm sorry. But, I mean...
Don't be me.
Really? What are you guys thinking?
I just said not so loud. He's right here.
No, it's okay. I get like that myself. It's a man thing.
I mean, you can name them all. You can do whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if it hadn't come down to a cull, they would have been slaughtered anyway.
But you know what? Frank just brought something up. And I know people think that I'm insane, but since I've been here, I name all the calves that are born. I don't remember them all, but I remember my calves' names. But every one of those animals is tagged and has a button, which is for identification. And like I see all this rage bait that's coming out right now, and this is what the government's going to make you do with your cows, and they're showing these. We've been doing it for years. years those little buttons have gone. This is nothing new, but we know the exact number of cows we have, the exact number of calves we have, and we have 3 bulls. So that's the easy part. But it really bothered me that they never had a count. And the other thing that bothers me is this little valley right now is still under quarantine zone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's going to remain that way because I think what I read was CFIA gave them 120 days to clean it up before they'll lift the quarantine off. But they haven't done anything over there. There's no, I don't know what they're doing.
There's no visible activity.
No, you don't see anything happening over there.
So here's the interesting thing. I have a little note to that. So the large donor from last night relayed that the spokesperson from the farm could not speak to him yesterday because she was busy working with the CFIA to get the restrictions lifted, to get the quarantine lifted. So if that is happening, and it is 6 months that it needs to be, I can't remember the term, is it fallow? Anyways, for the land to sit there for 6 months, because the disease can technically live for that long in certain meat and feathers, and is my understanding. So it's just another piece of misinformation. But I wanted to kind of change the subject here, if we can, for a sec. I wanted to ask you guys have lived in Edgewood for a long time. And I wanted to ask you, like, what do you love about living in Edgewood? What do you love about it?
Everything.
Don't
tell me more. What specifically?
Don't come here. It's terrible.
It's absolutely beautiful here. I mean, the mountains, the trees, like in the spring, not last spring, but the birds, the songbirds, the wildlife, the peace. It's just
the people.
But the valley is just peaceful and it's beautiful. Ricky, you should ought to come out here sometime.
No, don't.
I haven't been there, but I've been out to British Columbia, so I know of what you speak.
It's beautiful here. Yeah, it's just, when we were in Kelowna for 11 years. I mean, he was in the military. We traveled around and we just couldn't seem to find the right. I mean, I fought Frank for 40 some odd years. When I married him, we bought property here, but it was investment. And I said, I will never, ever move in Edgewood. It's too isolated. I'm too social. I would go crazy there. When we decided to leave Grand Forks 5 years ago, he said, where do you want to go? I said, I don't care. He said, Edgewood. I said, okay. And it's the best thing I have ever done. It's the best place I have ever been. I love it here.
It's what's the phrase? It's supernatural.
Yeah. It's a pretty, and the people, like, it's just, I just felt like I just crawled into a glove, and that's where I'm going to stay.
The people here look out for each other. They take care of each other. I mean, when I was building this house, and I got to a point where I needed to put down the floor. All of a sudden, 4 guys show up or 5 guys show up, and the whole floor got put down. And I needed drywall. They come in and they, these are guys that just all of a sudden they say, well, Frank needs some help. We're going over there. It's like a barn raising. Crazy how awesome. When people get together and do stuff. I mean, we've got some history in this valley as far as the Minto goes, and like Randy's the conservation president, and we got together to pour concrete for slab to put up a structure to display this model of the Minto, and there was 15 people show up to pour concrete, and
it's a community. It's a real family community is what it is.
It's like something out of the 60s or 50s. It's like again a time warp.
Yeah. Some days it's
Angie, follow up.
Well, I just wanted to acknowledge a couple things, and because due to the assault on Lois, there's been lots of us that's wanting to help her out. and she has declined everything that we have suggested. And she's very lovely. She's very feisty. But what she has asked is she wants to have an event, a community event, something that's free for everyone. So I've contacted Alice, and she is open to the Edgewood Community Club accepting some donations if people would like to donate to that. So just to keep in mind that the Edgewood Community Club does the cell tower upkeep. Also, they're hoping to get a seniors housing project on the go. There's going to be 10 units as it is right now. It's been in the process for a couple of years. They are a charitable organization. If people want to donate money, it's Edgewood Community Club Society at gmail.com. And also, Lois is a big proponent, supporter of the Edgewood Volunteer Fire Department. She says they do really well, but I want to promote them anyways. evfd.edgewood@gmail.com. And then she's a big supporter of the PALS, that's Protecting Animal Life Society. And so if anyone wanted to donate something, as I know a lot of people wanted to do something in honor of Lois, those are the three things that we talked about. So I just wanted to include those.
Thank you, Ange. Yeah, she has talked to me about that too. She's
matter of fact, our volunteer fire department firehouse on Lansdale Road is on her property.
Yeah.
And she's
a volunteer firefighter.
She's a volunteer. Yeah, she's out there with a shovel. And
no, I think they only let her hold the flag.
Oh, whatever.
She watches. She's watching this.
She's fun.
Yeah, she's fun.
She's watching us, all right. I'll get a report tomorrow.
Yeah, well, she told me she's sitting on my shoulder. So,
and I did ask the question, or at least I brought up the point that a lot of the people who just wanted to save the ostriches, they don't care. So a lot of those people will have listened to this point, and they're still not going to care, because it was just like, oh, there was nothing that justified that cull. Nothing justifies what the government did to kill those or murder the ostriches.
But if you look into the court documents, and you see that the farm did not hold up their bargain, their end of the deal.
Right.
What farmer doesn't know how many animals they have? What they don't tag them, and everyone's talking about government overreach. I believe it's government underreach, because February 2nd is when they should have came in and culled them. They assumed they were going to do that themselves. They chose not to. That's why this drug out for a whole entire year is government underreach, in my opinion. Yeah, and I'm open to being wrong, but so far nothing's changed my mind.
Right. And as I've said before, if you want to find somebody, if you really want to point the finger of blame correctly, it should really go straight at the farm, not the government, not the CFIA, but right at the farm itself. Because if you really want to look at it impartially and look at all the information and dissect all of it and look at the lies and unwrap those, peel the layers of the lies back, and you get to it. The truth of the matter is, this farm never properly cared for the ostriches to begin with. These ostriches are from Africa. These ostriches are not really acclimatized to the kind of environment that you have up there in that part of Canada, in that supernatural part of British Columbia, where in the winter it gets to be very, very cold. And these ostriches were left outside year round, which was not really good for them. They're not used to it. It's stressful for them. That's why sometimes these ostriches were becoming injured on the ice. In fact, and when they become injured, you're not supposed. What's that?
They slipped and fell and died on the ice last year. Yes, that's how one of them died.
That's right. And I know that Katie has even been saying, well, even when that happened, we tried to make sure that we used all of the ostriches. Well, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to sell or consume the meat from an ostrich that becomes injured. That's against the rules. But they didn't follow any of the rules. They never followed any of the rules. Even after the ostriches became infected, and that was confirmed not just through PCR testing, which some people discredit. There was additional testing done at a lab where the exact strain of the virus was identified. And so we know that the birds were infected. When they say that these birds were never tested, that's not really accurate at all. And that's part of another lie that continues to be spun up today. And that the farm was conducting research by injecting these birds with COVID antigens. And I know that even today, the farm owners and Katie Pasitny keep saying, well, there was nothing dangerous about it and there was nothing wrong. And they keep changing the story on what they were injected with, whether it was mRNA, spike protein, antigen, whatever you want to call it. I sat on a live stream for 7 hours with Dr. Stephen Pellick, and he talked about what they were injected with. So we know they were injected with COVID antigens. That's a fact that he confirmed in court. There are documents to that effect. The farm owners themselves said that, even though they try to spin it around. And there at times they were trying to tell us that they were never injected with anything. There were produced videos distributed by the farm activists with the approval of the farm owners, telling people that they were never injected with anything. We never sold them for food. Lies, lies, lies after telling you otherwise. No wonder people are so confused. And at the end of the day saying, we'll just have to save the ostriches. But the truth of the matter is they don't know why, what impact their research was having. They don't know if it was really safe to be conducting the kinds of, engaging in the research activities that they were engaging in for COVID out in this open air biolab, which is what they turned their farm into. They don't really know, and they can't sit there and say it was all safe when in fact they weren't following any of the proper protocols ever to make sure that it was safe. We don't know. And then you end up with, in this particular case, and there were other incidences where birds died in the past. Now you have 69 birds in December of 2024 and January of 2025, 69 birds die. And if you're running a research facility, you would be like, holy crap, why are these birds dying? We better really research this. And we really need to keep an inventory of our birds and dig into this, because even though they may have died from bird flu, there's a larger question of why did they get the bird flu? Does this have anything to do with the experimentation or the research we're doing? This is cause for real concern. And while they're doing all of this, they're still selling eggs and meat to the local community. These are research animals now, and they're not really conveying that to your community. And they're still selling these so people can take these products, these meat and egg products home to their children and their families to feed this stuff to people from these biolab animals. That's the truth. And they don't want to talk about any of that. So Jim Kerr came on my program and said, nope, they weren't injected with anything. And I said, why are you lying? You're lying. And he says, oh, well, if they said that, then maybe I'm wrong, because he knew he was lying. That was just a lie, straight up, but they don't care. And so for me, I think, I am a journalist. I was told last night, you call yourself a journalist? You're damn right. And that's why I'm an effective storyteller, because I can process information and convey it to people in an effective and efficient way to tell people what's really going on. This is what was going on at the farm. And I know that, for other people, we've been here 3 hours and it's taken a long time for you guys to, really convey the emotional side of your story. But why should people care? And why should they care about the litigation and the disputes over the land ownership? And why should they care about the COVID research? Why should they care about all that? Why can't you just save the ostriches? Because it's all spun up in a lie. You're being fed a narrative. This has been probably the most effective information warfare campaign I've ever experienced or seen. I've said I have to take my hat off to the propagandists who ran this whole thing. This has been amazingly effective. And people have been manipulated, and I would say even abused, especially people who are weak mentally. And I'm editorializing here a little bit, but not much, because everything I'm saying is factual. This is all based on facts and empirical evidence. Everything I'm saying here tonight.
Court documents,
testimony from the farm owners themselves. They're confirming this information. It didn't just come from me. I started with the farm owners with this story, and we're kind of winding up after months and months and months of this, talking to the other stakeholders involved, some of the local residents, Frank, Kelly, other people as well. The farm lied. The protesters lied. This was not about the ostriches. This became an anti-government protest. Around all of that, you also have separatists, you have foreign interests, foreign money. Canada as the 51st state issue rearing its head in here. You have the influence of the Trump administration, Dr. Oz, RFK Jr., poking their nose in here where it does not belong, trying to influence the policy of the Canadian government. Those guys should stay on their side of the border, because they wouldn't appreciate it if the CFIA went down to the United States and started telling the FDA how to conduct their affairs. The other thing that people are really missing sight of here, while they're calling on us to really dismantle, and Katie has stated that they really want to destroy the CFIA, destroy our food protection programs, destroy the institution, destroy that government agency. That's her objective at this point. She is an anti-government activist. That's what they are out there. Mm-hmm. But the truth of the matter is, this exact same thing could happen in the United States, because they have a very similar policy. So if this, I've looked into it, their policies, their regulations, everything, it falls into line very much with what Canada's position is on this. So they're no damn better. And it was completely disingenuous for RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz to come up here and say, well, Dr. Oz will take all the ostriches. That was BS. That was never going to happen. And he knew it.
They're not even allowed to leave the BC interior. Like, yes, they're not allowed to leave the Arrow Lakes Valley.
And then for them to issue these public letters, that's not proper protocol. That's not diplomatic. That's political, and that's political activism in itself. That's an affront to the Canadian government. So no wonder the government got its back up. No wonder, because they were backed into a corner through, foreign influence, foreign money, U.S. money. A lot of political stuff going on here, and backed into a corner by the farm through the use of lawfare, aimed back at the government. And while they're all making themselves out to be the big victim here, because the courts are corrupt and they're not being given a voice. Horse hockey. They were given nothing but a voice. They were given nothing but due process. They were allowed to let this thing stretch out for months and months and months, going back. And if they didn't like the outcome of the court case, so they appealed. And they didn't like the outcome of the court case because they didn't have a legal leg to stand on, and they didn't have any valid arguments, and they didn't have any valid science. And so they lost in court once, twice, 3 times, went all the way to the Supreme Court. And they're saying, well, that we don't have a voice. They're not being fair to us. They were absolutely fair. They let you take this thing all the way to the end of the football field, man, carrying that ball, and gave you every chance, every opportunity. And in the course of all that, they were externalizing their risk, putting the community at risk, because those birds were infected. They did have a bird flu outbreak, and they didn't care. They didn't give a damn. This is me editorializing, but it's very clear that they didn't care. That's why we should, because they put the community at risk. They put other farmers at risk. Frank, you said tonight that there are no other farmers in your community, in the area, that support what's been going on there. And I know that they're creating some sort of an organization that they say is going to be made up of farmers or farms to fight for farms. That's also horse hockey, because everything they've been doing is actually the opposite. They want to tear down the CFIA because they're political activists, and when they do that, they will be compromising our food safety, because RFK Jr. himself has said many times before, he doesn't believe in the cull policy, and now he has direct influence over all of that, and he's trying to change it so that we just end up letting bird flu rip. And that means that farmers would then just start stuffing sick birds into the food chain. So if you want to eat birds, chickens, other kinds of, yes, poultry, ostriches are poultry, then you're going to be, if you listen to these people who say they want to save you, and then you're going to be eating birds infected with H5N1, which is probably not safe. especially when the novel form of the virus that they found out at the damn farm, we know that that particular strain of it had jumped to a human. That's why the CFIA was so damn concerned about it. And while the primary concern out there was not about human to human or bird to human contact or transmission, the reality is it was a concern for residents out there, for seniors who didn't want to get sick, because we had at least one case, not the girl that they brought out there for their big photo op, but for the guy in Ohio who got sick, and I believe he died. And so if you know that particular strain of the virus is in your community, yeah, I think that you have a valid concern. But the primary concern was about protecting animals and protecting the food supply, protecting farmers, protecting the viability of our agricultural industry, protecting the viability of your local farmers. If you really care about your local small farmers, then you support them and you say, well, we're going to do the right thing and we're going to follow these rules to mitigate the risk so that my neighbors don't get destroyed. But they didn't do, they externalized the risk. They forced the rest of the community to accept the risk with them, and it potentially spread. And of course, we had bird flu spread to other parts of the province, and because they didn't they didn't comply with any of the orders, none. In court documents, we know that to be true. Didn't put up any netting, didn't do anything to quarantine the place. They basically gave the middle finger to the government, to the CFIA, and they said, F you. This is our property. We have property rights. And they turned it into a circus and a grift because, Angie, you touched on something very important. They knew that even if they accepted the $1.2 million compensation package from the federal government, which was market value for those birds, by the way, if they had taken that, they probably wouldn't have seen the money because they had people who had that they owed money to, debtors who were ready to try to scoop up that cash because they wanted to be compensated in the face of all of this craziness. So what was the incentive then? If you're not going to get the compensation, why take it? They go the other way. And then somewhere along the line, it's pretty clear that somebody came to that farm and said, hey, you know what? We can turn this into we'll use this. We'll turn this into a political thing. And we'll, if you play ball with us, we'll do this big information campaign and we'll start generating donations. We can help you. We'll get people to donate. We'll huge amounts of money. We're going to turn it into this thing, this media frenzy. And that's what they did. And it dragged on for months. And then you see the intervention of a billionaire from New York City. You see the intervention of the U.S. government. If you're not connecting the dots, you're not thinking. I mean, this is a little farm, or not even a little one. It's actually a large ostrich farm, the biggest in Canada. This ain't some small little petting zoo. This is a 400 ostrich, or so we were told. They can't keep track of their birds. Ostrich breeding facility in the middle of freaking nowhere, and they're involving all these other farms. This is big business. This is huge money. Huge money. And they turned it into this anti-government thing. And in the course of doing all of this, it became disruptive, damaging to the local community. This has damaged our entire country because it has now further undermined trust in our institutions, in the CFIA, in police. Everything, every aspect of the government here has been attacked. Why is that going on? Because they're political activists, because they're separatists, because they want Canada to become the 51st state, because they want to keep attacking our country, to tear it all down, to create the pretext where you get some sort of intervention. And that's what we were getting. That was like a foreshadow of what was to come that we're getting even now. Oh, well, you know what? We better get RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz up there and MAGA and Trump administration, and the president should intervene. Please, President, they made a video appealing to Donald Trump to get involved to save the frickin' farm. That's the same as Lieutenant Steve Rogers and his SOS letter writing campaign, convincing brainwashed Canadians to write letters to the U.S. government asking for the U.S. military to come up here and save us. It's the same, excuse me, SHIT that I've been seeing for 5 years now. This is the pattern. And while a lot of people come out to these things with their hearts in the right place because they're just ordinary, everyday Canadians, they're pawns. These people are being abused. They're being mentally abused. They're being manipulated through this information psyop and these online social media streamers who don't give a damn because they're getting paid or they're getting views and they're getting clicks. And so ethics go right out the window. And if they can do something provocative to get even more views and more clicks and more donations because they martyr themselves, then ethics go right out the window and it's time to cash in, baby. And they don't care how much damage they do to our country or to your community or to you, because they just don't care, because they're brainwashed too. And they think that Canada has become some sort of a communist hellhole that needs to be saved by Donald frickin' Trump. This is what's going on. And so if you think it's just, if you think this was about bird flu and the ostriches, no, that was the catalyst. That was the excuse. That was what they just latch on to. And this is what has been this year. And I guarantee you that if we haven't been taken over by the United States by spring, you're going to see the next issue by the time the snow thaws. There's going to be something else. So this is a recurring thing. We're all hamsters on a wheel. We're being manipulated. And I'm sorry, folks, but you just became, as Katie said, ground zero for this political activism. That's what has been going on out there for the past year. And it's unfortunate. It's tragic. You guys just became victims of a giant psyop. And it's ongoing. It's not going to get better. They're amplifying this whole thing. And I'll show you more tomorrow night, I think, because I got more. And I hope that helps somebody. Or maybe, just maybe, I'm wrong. But if I'm wrong, you show me. That was my editorial for the end of the broadcast tonight. But I'll throw it back to you guys for final thoughts. Angie, first you, and then we'll wrap up with Frank and Kelly.
I think the one area that we need to focus on is they didn't care about the government. They didn't care about the CFIA. They didn't care about the RCMP. But what is a tragedy is they don't care about their neighbors. They don't care about their community. And they ignored their neighbors. Yeah. And what good, humble farmer would do that? I don't know anyone that would. And they chose to do that. They are that way. And I hope that we just change one person's mind tonight. That's all we need to do. Educate, get some people to ask some questions. And, you know, there is a group called Universal Ostrich Farm Exposed. If people want to know the details, go in there. And they have all of the receipts. They have the court documents. They have all of the lives, all of the memes, all of the things. And head in there, check it out, and ask for more questions.
Yeah. Frank, Kelly?
For me, it's just please go away. Leave us alone. We have a wonderful little community, and we don't need you.
For me, I'm just happy to have that Legion story straightened out. That has bothered me for months, just because it was just so wrong. It was just so wrong. But I feel better. I feel better. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow night with more. You're not going to miss tomorrow. Oh, I got something for you tomorrow. See you at 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side.
Didn't pick this fight, but here it us on their knees to the thief. Wave our flag while they burn it down, marching to the sound of a tyrant's crown. They ain't patriots, they're bought and sold. Trade our land for American gold. Singing his tune, dancing his way, but they'll cry for Canada when it's too late. Yeah. Trump traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. They talk real tough, but they bow real low, licking his boots while they put on a show. They chant his name, raise their fists up high, while the real ones fight to keep us alive. They don't fight fair, they twist the truth, say they're the future, but they kill the roots. They laugh now, but watch them run when the north wind howls and justice comes. Traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. One day soon the tide will turn, and traitors pay when the fires burn. No statues raised, no banners flown, just names in dust where the traitors roam. Traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. Trump traitors, Trump traitors, Trump traitors, Trump traitors, Trump traitors. Shame.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.